And welcome back to another episode of Strathpeffer Spa Model Railway. I know it's a very long and overdue episode. It's been at least a year since my last video. For that, I apologise. Like most people, life gets in the way. Last year was a particularly busy year for myself with work, and plus other hobbies and interests developed, and the railway took a back seat. But over the last winter, I've had some time, and as we head into spring, we've been doing a bit of work with the model railway. So we're going to start from the Fiddle yard end, and we're going to have a look at progress, do a talk through of progress thus far on the railway, and we'll see what's been happening and what's developed. So here we go. So what you see here on my floor is my new fiddle yard. Now this fiddle yard has basically been the reason why I've not been bothering doing any progress with the model railway, because it hadn't been wired up. So what I've done is I've wired it up for simple DCC running, and it has massively increased the sort of runnability of the layout in general. Now the issue is this extension is about, I think it's 1.5 meters or 2 meters long, and it connects on to this part of the layout just in here. However, as you can see, it then protrudes into my hallway, which the long-haired general puts up with, but it doesn't make her happy. So it doesn't often get set up unless myself and the Terror Tot are going to be doing some proper railway running. So at this end of the fiddle yard, what we've got is we've got 5 sidings that come off. Now at this end, I'd connected all the sidings up with point work so that you could run a loco from, for example, this line into this line, releasing it from the train, and then you could obviously manoeuvre the locomotive round its train and push it back in. But then I thought, this is a fiddle yard, it's taken up valuable points that I could be using elsewhere, so I'd done away with it. And now what I've got is, I've got sort of 2 lines which come in here, so the loco can come down this one, and it can come all the way up here, up to a head shunt here, and get unattached from the train there, and then it can run back round itself, and then it can either shunt or push its carriages, wagons, whatever, back in there for storage for the next train to come out. And then I've got a couple of head shunts there as well for additional locos or small trains to get stored in. So big fan of this, and it's helping a lot. So to connect my baseboard up with the main track, what I've got is these Modeltech ProTrack rail liners. Now I think I saw these in maybe Hornby magazine as well as online on YouTube, and I thought that's actually a really great idea. So as you can see here, now it's a bit messy here, but as you can see, that's just a bit of spare flexible track that I've cut the last 3 sleepers off. You then solder in this here, and it has a matching one up here where it connects, so it just connects in there. And it's brilliant because it really does align the track up, and it works fantastically. I've had no issues with that at all. So that's a good little bit of kit. It's cheap, and it comes in quite a few different size ranges, gauge ranges, so it's well worth getting if you haven't seen it before. So there's been some development to the rear of the layout here. I wasn't overly happy with the scene I'd created. Excuse my finger there. I wasn't overly happy with the scene I had created, so I wanted to change it about. Now you'll remember, to the rear of this container, let's get you above the perspex. Yeah, to the rear of this container, I had some like electric junction boxes and signal kit, but I've got rid of that now. And what I've done is I've brought in this gantry crane that I had sitting in my sort of spares box. I've then moved the small terrier tank and its actual water tanks to create this little scene here. And then underneath I've got the arc welder. Yep, you can just make it out there. So the arc welder's there, you can just see the LED lights flashing there. But when it's sort of darker, it actually sets it off quite well. Now, looking back to the local shed, I wasn't very happy with the local shed either. That's because I'd gone into a lot of detail with regards to doing the filtering effect on the roof, putting all the roof vents in, and then the sort of signage and the air extractors, but I hadn't put gutters on it. So I got a good set of Langley Models cast iron gutters, and I've fitted those to the model. And then if you look down here, I was able to get some brass etches for drains. So there's one there and there's one up the back there. And again, it's just that little bit of detail that adds a little bit of interest to the model. You can see as we move forward, I've sort of moved things about here as well. My class 37, so that is a Triang class 37, which I've had stripped back and repainted into the sort of Dutch livery style, and I've given it a local number to Inverness, and then I've added some sort of Bachmann Bachmann 37 detail to the front, and also flush windscreens as well, just to bring it up to date a little bit. It doesn't work, it's just a dummy model, but it definitely looks good. Now I got the workman's staircase, whatever you call these, I can't remember what you call these, but the stairs anyway, the wheelie stairs. I got those from West Hill Wagon Works, I think it is, and a really good little product. And it was just a quick blast of primer paint, and then I've painted one orange, and I've painted the other one in yellow. Now I've weathered the yellow one up heavier than I have the orange one because the yellow paint is quite thin. So I've put those in place, and again, it's just bringing the scene to life and, you know, adding a bit more interest to look at whilst you're doing it. So coming on, you'll remember from my last video, I had put up these little pulley wheels, and you'll see the signal post there. So I've actually gone to the trouble, they were bugging me that I had gone to the trouble of putting those in, but I hadn't put any wire or cable through them. So what I've done is I've painstakingly threaded just grey cotton thread all the way through there, then under the track, and it comes out on the other side, and then it comes into the back of this home signal there, which again, it's just adding a bit of interest and adding detail to the scene. You'll also notice that I've painted white splodges of paint onto the check rails of most of the point work. Now, I'm not sure why this is, but I noticed at Bowness and Keneal Railway and some other heritage sites, they paint white paint on the check rails. And I thought, well, that's quite a nice detail. So I've done it myself, and I've done that throughout the model. Now, I've got some locos to look at. So some of you will probably also own one of these, but this is the Caledonian Railway. This is 828 in its preserved state, but I've gone a wee step further and I've weathered mine up, which, believe me, my heart was pumping all the way through it because it's an expensive model, and if you wreck it with poor weathering, then you've potentially kissed it. But anyway, so I've lightly weathered it, and I'm very happy with the results. I've added real coal load and a crew, and I've fitted the detail pack, and it's also DCC fitted, and it's, you know, a cracking model, and I'm very happy with it. It was well worth the wait in my humble opinion, but yeah, that's what it's looking like. So yeah, happy with that. And as we come round again, what I've done now is I've moved the water tower. So in my last video, I mentioned I was thinking of moving the water tower. I have moved it now. I've moved it to this location here, which makes sense because the engine can then run off the train, fill up with water, and then run round to the other end, hook up, and off it goes. So the water crane is there now. Now this is Hornby Black 5. It was originally numbered, I think it was 5036 or 26, but I've renumbered it 5025, which is the Strathpeffer Black 5, and I've painted it in high gloss and then lightly weathered it. Again, this is to replicate 5025, which has recently come out of a full overhaul. So as you can see, and again, I'm really pleased with how this has come out, and it looks very smart. And again, real coal load in the back in the tender, and it's got the crew. You can just make them out there, busying themselves away. And you know, it's a cracking model. Happy with that as well. And then continuing on along the front of the layout, I had last time mentioned that I was going to be fitting the Wizard Models Holland, is it Holland and Mackenzie ground signal? Well, there it is in all its glory. So that's sort of prototypical, as it were, to Strathpeffer. Now, you can get these signals to function. However, I melted the first one, with the solder iron, because the solder iron was too hot when I was trying to actually make it a functioning signal, and I also couldn't drill through the base of it, so I ended up just sacking it and having it as a static model. But even still, it looks quite smart, so I am happy with that. And yeah, you get the idea. So coming to the rear of the layout, so that's my LMS Sentinel steam rail car, which was modified and updated by Dave at Strathpeffer Junction. But to the rear of that, you can see, again, I was speaking about it in my last video, but that is the crane that I built during lockdown, and I've just built a little bit of platform there. I've broke the wall up a wee bit just to add a bit of sort of something to the scene, put some seafoam trees behind it, and I've inserted the crane there. So again, the crane could be potentially used for, I don't know, coal loading up of locos or taking stuff off the locos and that. So a nice little bit of detail. Now, nothing has really happened in this corner. This corner is sort of forgotten about. At the real location, this is a car park, this area. However, I've not really had the energy or sort of enthusiasm yet to dig it out and put a car park there. But I'll tell you about potential plans anyway. So recently, I sold off a lot of my 00 gauge models, particularly my Southern Railway models. I had quite a few Southern Railway models because I had developed a bit of a taste for them while I was living down south. But since moving back north, I've not really been running them at all. So I thought, let's just release the money that's tied up in these assets. And with that money, I'm going to reinvest it in sort of other models or the actual layout itself. And what I've done is I've managed to get my hands on one of these. Now, this is the Euro Phoenix 37. I'm a big fan of this livery, and I don't think these have run north at all. But because this is a sort of heritage line, and obviously heritage lines run diesel galas, Rule 1 applies and I can do what I want. Now I only bought this by chance. I was in my local model shop, the Dingwall Sports Model Shop, who have a really great selection of models. And I was looking just through the shelves and I found it, and it was 162 quid. I was like, geez, that's actually quite a competitive price. I've not been able to find one that much cheaper. So I got them to put it in reserve, sold my Southern Railway kit, and they even knocked a bit more off that sort of £162 price for me. On top of that, I then bought a couple of these North British Railway. See if I can pull one out. Yep. So North British Railway Hornby six-wheeler coaches. Now these are the ones with the working lights. £26 they are from the Sports and Model Shop in Dingwall. So happy with that. Got two of those, and they've got me a six-wheel brake carriage on order as well. So fairly happy with that. So to continue rolling this video, the next plan is, life is getting in the way again, and life developments are potentially forcing a change, but we are looking towards our second terror tot, so we are expecting a spare to the heir. What does that mean? Well, in May we will find out the sex of the new baby that's en route, and depending on the sex will basically depend on what we do with the model railway. So if we have another girl, then the two girls will stay in this room, which is the spare room, which is the larger of the two. But if it's a boy, that means the boy and the girl will have to have separate rooms. So therefore, the model railway will have to find a new home. What does that mean? Well, the only other available space we've got in this house is the kitchen. Our kitchen's an L shape, and the tail of the L, as it were, is sort of useless space where we keep the wee one's toy kitchen and exercise bike that holds all our coats and the dog's bed. Now, I've already been in there with measuring tape, and it is long enough to take this model in its current state. However, I've got to that stage in developing this layout where I want to rip it all up and start again. I think everyone does it, especially I've been watching it on YouTube, and a lot of people get to a certain stage where they rip their layouts up and start afresh. And what I'm thinking of doing is, if we do have to move this layout, then I'm thinking of starting from fresh and starting from this side. So instead of observing the layout from this side, we would observe the layout. Now, excuse me, you're going to see my legs in this, I think. We would observe the layout from this side, looking through the station, looking through the canopy. Now, I don't know what this looks like because I'm not obviously behind it just now, and then looking through it from this location. This then would, it would shorten the layout, as in it wouldn't be as wide. So I would literally start the layout from here. I would forget about this siding. I would take that away. I would probably take this maintenance depot away. And then what I would have is the baseboard would come round at an angle where I would have sort of the engine shed, carriage works, storage sidings coming off, with the fiddle yard sort of behind it. And then what I'd have is the embankment, which is actually here. So there's actually, in the real location, there's an embankment here coming up towards the Ben Wyvis Hotel. But there's also the station master's house, which is here, which is it's a detail that I've always wanted to put in. But again, on the original station, there's a Highland Railway style signal box. Now the signal box is long gone, but I happen to have the ratio kit for I think it's the Helmsdale one. Correct me if I'm wrong, but anyway, I've got the ratio Highland Railway signal box kit, which I would actually like to have here as another sort of feature to the railway. So there's some plans there, and I'll have to fire up any rail and work it all out, but we'll get there. So that's where we are. It's been a very long video, and apologies for my ranting and raving, but that's where we are. Hopefully next time there won't be such a long pause and delay in between videos. So, thanks very much for watching. Take care of yourselves. If you liked the video, hit the like button, and if you haven't subscribed, then feel free to do so. And we'll speak to you next time. Take care.